And hey, what's up and how's it going, all in my beers? I am Mike McRock for the Make Rock and Bolt Wrestling Review Show, and right now I'm going to give you my review as well as the results of last night's WWE RAW episode 1100. I will say this about last night's episode of Raw. This was a decent go-home show. And lately, as of this year alone, there hasn't been a lot of great go-home shows when it comes to building up and hyping up a pay-per-view. But with this one, actually entertained me to an extent and got me interested to see Money in the Bank, even though there's only 4 announced matches on the card, which is a bit of a problem. But without further ado, here's my Raw review. Now, with this episode, it felt like it was struggling overall in the first hour, but the second hour, it just got right into it. And the way the show ended was kind of okay-ish. But like I said, this show kind of entertained me to an extent. There was actually a couple of really good highlights on this show. And the first one was the whole Stephanie McMahon and Vicky Guerrero promo at the beginning of the show, where you had Stephanie McMahon come out, told Vicky to come out because there's consequences to every action because you put Roman Reigns in the Battle Royal last week and Roman Reigns won. What happened was that Vicky Guerrero was begging for a job, and Stephanie says that, okay, I'm going to give you a chance because later on you're going to face me, and if you lose you'll be fired. But you never really said anything. What if she won? Like, there was no stipulation added. If Vicky Guerrero won the match, what, nothing would happen. She would keep her job pretty much. But we all saw this coming. This was a little bit predictable. But what I like about this first segment was the dialogue between the two of them. It was actually quite surprising to see how Vicky and Stephanie actually worked well with each other. And the match itself, I like how it was actually really good in a trashy kind of way. Here you had Stephanie McMahon announce that there's going to be a mud match. Heck, it could be caramel for all I know. That's in the mud. What happened was that the 3 divas came out: Layla, Alicia Fox, and Rosa Mendez, and tried to get Vicky in the puddle of mud or whatever it was, and Vicky wards them off. And Stephanie McMahon pushes Vicky into the mud. She loses. And then they made Stephanie a complete idiot afterwards when she was dancing in victory. And then Vicky Guerrero, covered in that stuff, turns around and pushes Stephanie right in there. And the referee gets it too. That was funny. And like I said, this was one of the great highlights. And I like how Eddie Guerrero was kind of introduced into this whole segment as well. Vicky Guerrero coming out with the Eddie Guerrero's music. I don't know what was wrong with the fans. They didn't even pop for that for some weird reason. But to me, it was a markout moment. And I got chills. With the whole Vicky Guerrero payoff when she was celebrating, doing the dance, and she looks up, points up in the sky, and I just got chills. This was all Eddie, and so I like how this kind of thing transferred to one segment to another. I think the only thing I would have done differently is that this would have been great. The whole Vicky Guerrero moment, if it was at the end of the show, but I'm happy that we did get that big payoff for Vicky Guerrero. The other big highlight, I thought, in my opinion, was the Intercontinental Championship match between Bad News Barrett and Dolph Ziggler. What an incredible match. The chemistry between these two guys was just amazing to watch. If you're a fan of just wrestling in general, you'll love this match. I think we need more Intercontinental Championship matches like this one, because to me this was the best Intercontinental Championship match so far this year that I've seen. And I can't think of one that I've seen this year that even comes close to this kind of match. Even the fans were just really invested in this match, and I like how this match ended. It was very climatic. Dolph Ziggler about to do something when Wade Barrett was in the corner, and then he just nails the bullhammer out of nowhere. Pins him 1, 2, 3. Very climatic win. Bad News Barrett retains the Intercontinental Championship, and I'm all well and good for it. I think the right person won here, because Dolph Ziggler is a guy right now that the WWE really doesn't even have any hopes for at this point, even though they put him in a match, which I will get to later on. Also, we saw two segments. One segment with two matches in it. First, it was Jimmy Uso versus Luke Harper. Very short, very quick, 30-second to 1-minute match. Where Luke Harper goes over, and then that flowed into Jey Uso facing Eric Rowan, where Jey Uso won. A little bit longer of a match, but I like how they got the point across here, and I like how this segment didn't need to go on for too long to get the point across. It just flowed very well, I thought. And then you have Bray Wyatt show up on the screen and cut a promo and talking about how the Usos are going to get all that Money in the Bank. Now, with that said, one thing I question: what's up with the music? I mean, it's some sort of harmonica rendition of The Whole World in His Hands, and here I'm thinking, this is so terrible. It almost felt like the music was meant to be terrible. Because of the fact that the Wyatt family are heels and we're not supposed to like them, so why should we like the music? I'm just throwing that out there. You can make the argument, but I don't know if that's a great argument or not. But the way I see it is just that, Jim Johnson, you used to make good music, and now you just make weird stuff. I mean, it's one thing to have Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose as the generic music, but this is just flat out. I honestly don't know what to make of it at all. And I'm just going to move on here. Alicia Fox versus Naomi. Here you have Paige and Cameron on commentary, and oh my god. To me, this was more disappointing than anything. Because to me, the commentary, it was so focused on that, it just took away from the match. To me, this was a little disrespectful from the divas that were competing in the ring. It just completely overshadowed the match. I mean, here you have Cameron, who's making no sense at all on commentary, and here you have Paige, who's not very good either, but at least Paige is a lot better on commentary than Cameron. With that being said, I mean, it's just one of those things where you want to build up to a match at Money in the Bank for your Divas Championship. You want to focus on the in-ring work instead of people on commentary. This was stupid. And here you have Alicia Fox? Yeah, here you have Naomi go over Alicia Fox in this match, and then you have this whole thing about Cameron trying to play off this heel role. I don't know if this is going to work, but it might do something for Naomi in the future. And I have my own prediction for this match, and I hope the WWE I'll put it to you this way. I can only hope what the WWE should do for this match with Naomi and Paige at Money in the Bank. I'm just going to leave it there. I will do a prediction video, and I'm going to talk about this match overall. But overall, I thought this was probably the most disappointing segment that happened on the show because of the fact that the commentary not only was bad, it was more focused on that than it was the match. And then you have the announcement of Triple H coming out and naming the participants in the Money in the Bank briefcase match. Now, I'm just going to quickly run by this. First, you have Seth Rollins. You also have Kofi Kingston, Jack Swagger, Dolph Ziggler, Rob Van Dam, Wade Barrett, later Dean Ambrose, which I'll explain. With these guys like Rob Van Dam, Kofi Kingston, and Dolph Ziggler, these three guys, I think, will probably make this match something to remember, I hope. To me, when I look at this match on paper, this has the potential to steal the freaking show on Sunday, to tear the freaking house down. I mean, here you have Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler, Rob Van Dam, even Seth Rollins. 4 guys in this match that are high flyers who do high flying spots in ladder matches. I mean, I expect this to be outstanding when I watch this on Money in the Bank. It's just simple as that. And here's the thing with Jack Swagger. This is a guy I really don't see win. To me, my favorite in this match, believe it or not, is Bad News Barrett. For that reason, I think he's a guy that needs something more than the Intercontinental Championship right now. What happened was that after Triple H announced the matches, he introduces Seth Rollins, and he kind of talks about himself as well when he introduces him about being the future, being the next big thing, the next big star. Here comes Seth Rollins. And I'm just going to quickly point out that Seth Rollins looks like General Zod from Superman. I'm just going to throw that out there. And Seth Rollins cuts a promo, talks about dropping dead weight of the Shield and that he created the Shield. And here I'm thinking, this is the same bad explanation he came up with. This is just terrible. I'm not saying that Seth Rollins' promo was terrible. I'm saying that the stuff Rollins was saying just doesn't make sense at all, because, like, who died and made him the boss of the Shield? To me, when I look at the Shield, all 3 guys created the Shield, not one guy. I think I think the writers are a little bit stupid in that area. I'm just throwing that out there. What do you guys think about that? I'm just going to leave it at that. And then you have Rob Van Dam come out and he interrupts. And this turns into a match between Seth Rollins and Rob Van Dam. Actually, a not bad match. I really enjoyed it. And when Seth Rollins almost bet Rob Van Dam with a curse stomp that Rob Van Dam sold very well, out comes Dean Ambrose attacking Seth Rollins, and then he comes to promo and says, "I don't care if I trash the Money in the Bank pay-per-view or interfere in your match. I'm taking over the joint." And I love this from Dean Ambrose. To me, he's the kind of a toned-down version of Jon Moxley, because WWE's PG. I mean, I heard he'd done a lot of crazy stuff back then. And when I look at Dean Ambrose right now, the more I'm starting to think that he's really starting to develop the character. I love how he sells it in the eyes. The whole lunatic fringe gimmick is just working to a T right now. And I also like how he kind of threw in that predictability factor, so we know what's going to happen anyway. He's going to come out and interfere or trash the whole pay-per-view or special event, whatever you want to call it. And then later on backstage, Seth Rollins was telling Triple H, and he said, "I want Dean Ambrose in this match just to keep an eye on him. I want to control him. And here I'm thinking, okay, how are you going to control this lunatic fringe? That's going to be like nearly impossible. I mean, you're going to need a straight jacket, as the commentators mentioned. Just for storyline purposes, I'm mentioning that. And I kind of like this because it made sense on Seth Rollins' part. It's better than his explanation of why he turned on his brothers. Because he wants to keep an eye on him. He don't want Dean Ambrose to attack out of nowhere. He wants to see where he is at all times. And I could see this happening. I don't know if Seth Rollins or Dean Ambrose will win the Money in the Bank briefcase, but they could use this match to hype up their one-on-one match at SummerSlam. Not Battleground, SummerSlam. You could probably tease the match at Battleground with a segment or whatever, do some sort of talk show interview, maybe Piper's Pit, I don't know, something of that nature. Or Ambrose's Alley, a new talk show for Dean Ambrose to get him something going. I don't know, something like that would be great for Battleground to hype up their one-on-one match at SummerSlam. And also you could make the argument of having one of them win the briefcase so they have something to fight over and have a bit of spark in the rivalry. That would be great too. So you can make a lot of things, the valid argument points coming out of this whole deal. And this is a really money-making match that I hope to see happens at SummerSlam. Eventually, a lot of people are talking about it. Let's make it happen. And I'm going to move on to a match to me that was very telling. It was Jack Swagger versus Kofi Kingston. This was a kind of match where Jack Swagger goes over, tap out to the angle lock. And the one thing to me that made this match very telling is that one of the commentators said even though Kofi lost, he looked good doing it. And that's pretty much him in a nutshell. I mean, this is a guy that's really going to go nowhere in the WWE, so I just don't have any hopes of Kofi Kingston winning the briefcase. It would be surprising that he does, and I'll just leave it at that. And then you have a vignette, well, actually a promo of Lana and Rusev visiting the White House in Washington, talking about how the government is corrupt, but there's no real heel heat because apparently a lot of Americans kind of agree with Lana. So there's no real heat there at all, I thought. And later on we saw Big E versus Abe Lincoln as Damien Sandow doing this whole Abraham Lincoln gimmick. And it's amazing how the WWE is pushing the Sandow to the very bottom, bit by bit, every single episode on Raw, throwing in this whole bunch of gimmicks. I mean, just leave him off TV. I'm at to a point now with Damien Sandow with the whole idea of him doing gimmicks after week after week after week until it's a point where it's just leave him off TV or release him. Just end the pain right now and release the guy. I mean, the WWE recently released 11 people from their roster, and somehow they want to keep Damien Sandow. Why do you want to do that? And with the whole thing with Big E, he's not really lighting the world on fire. He goes over Damien Sandow here, and it was just another pointless filler match. Kind of like the whole Bo Dallas and Titus O'Neil, which I'm not really going to go over at all. But the whole thing with Big E, and then he cuts a promo after the match, and he's like breathing in between his words really heavy. He was like, America is the land of the free and the home of the brave. I mean, dude, just stop right there, please. Just don't ever speak again. I thought that was terrible. Because to me, when I look at Big E right now in the WWE, the way they treat African American superstars, if you want to call them that, they want to throw in the whole stereotypical crap that they want to do with people, with the African American community. Here you have Big E talking like he's some sort of black preacher or a Martin Luther King. This is ridiculous, WWE. This is too stereotypical. And then Lana distracts Big E, and then Alexander Rusev attacks the Big E out of nowhere. And I just have no interest at all. I think that this is one of those probably 2 of 3 filler matches we're going to get at Money in the Bank. Rusev versus Big E. I'm just not really going to care about it. But there was one thing I actually didn't mind at all on this show was Stardust. And the whole Goldust segment backstage where Stardust was singing. That was brilliant, I thought. And the main event was John Cena, Sheamus, Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton, Alberto Del Rio, Cesaro, and Bray Wyatt. Throughout the match, they were teasing, the whole bad guys not liking each other, the blind tags, Alberto Del Rio not liking it, Cesaro not liking it. This was an okay closer to the show. I wasn't really crazy about it. I mean, there are some things on the show that came before this that I thought were a lot better than the main event. This was one of those predictable kind of matches where the baby faces go over the heels. I mean, this was the same match that we saw on SmackDown, for God's sakes. And on top of that, Kane comes out, destroys everyone, and Triple H makes the announcement that, we're going to have a 8th participant in the main event, Kane, and then Roman Reigns spears him. But even though that Kane being the 8th and last participant, I hope, is one too many for the match, I think they could have left him out of it. And to me, when I look at it, I mean, this made the ambulance match last week not even happen. I mean, what was the point of having the ambulance match last week where Kane lost and now all of a sudden he's in the match? I mean, here's the thing. I can give a free pass of Seth Rollins and Randy Orton automatically being involved in the match, but when someone loses a match to qualify and now he's in the match, that's a completely different other thing in itself. This was ridiculous. I don't really care for it at all. But at least with this Raw, it ended in a way where you can predict where this is going to go between Reigns and Triple H. This might end up being Triple H costing Roman Reigns the match. That would be the deciding factor, and it's something that you could see probably close to the end of the ladder match. So at least they're leaving open a question of what's going to happen at Money in the Bank between Triple H and Roman Reigns. That I did enjoy. It was just Kane putting him in the Money in the Bank ladder match I kind of didn't care for. So overall, with this episode of Raw, it was a so decent go-home show. And if you saw it, what did you think about it? Feel free to comment below, let me know. While you're at it, you can hit that subscribe button down below this video. You can also follow MRB Wrestling on Twitter, and you can like us on Facebook at the Mick Rock and Bolt Wrestling Review Show. And on a final note to all you viewers watching, get plenty of rest, and always do your best.